There's a big world of pedals out there, and sometimes it can be pretty overwhelming to know where to start. And today we're going to take a look at a few options and see what might work for you. Stick around. How's it going, y'all? My name is Cooper Greenberg. I'm here at Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Check us out. Today we're diving into kind of an intro to pedals, and like I said, it can be very daunting, very overwhelming to kind of know where to start. There's a lot of people that come into the store, ask us online, they just maybe got their first electric guitar and they're looking to kind of start playing with some sounds and adding some color to their tone, kind of developing their own personal sound. And a lot of people just ask, what's the first pedal that I should get, or the first few pedals to kind of start off building that side of the instrument. And it's kind of hard to talk to somebody about that. I mean, we recommend maybe look at some artists that you like, see what those artists use as their pedals, but more often than not, a lot of people want to start with adding some gain, adding some crunch to get distorted, get overdrive. And you know, I started with the TS9 Ibanez Tube Screamer. A lot of people start with like a DS1 Boss distortion. I was given a Metal Zone Boss pedal, and I was like, this is it. And then it like blew my ears off. So maybe for you, maybe not. But a good place to start kind of understanding where gain comes from is overdrive. And right here we got a Fender Santa Ana overdrive. And within the same family, you can find distortion, and you can also find fuzz. And these are just kind of different levels of adding crunch and adding gain and getting a lot of harmonic tones. You know, heavier music or not heavier music, it's always nice to have a good overdrive, distortion, or fuzz. So without further ado, let's check out the sound differences between these three, kind of the different levels of what you're working with. So hopefully you could kind of tell the difference, I think, between overdrive and fuzz. There's a huge spectrum, and there's a ton of different brands that advertise transparent overdrive, which is going to be transparent and very, very mild, versus you can get all the way up to, you know, modded out big muffs and just like crazy fuzz tones. And you know, I should specify, we're not really diving into the specifics of individual pedals or different manufacturers. We're just really talking about the tones and the effects in their kind of truest form, and what you should be thinking of if you're trying to put a name to a sound that you hear that you want to try and recreate. And next up, I think in terms of, you know, the most common thing that people want to dive into, you're probably going to be looking at time-based effects like delay, echo, or reverb. And for that, we're going to jump into the carbon copy, which is my first delay that I ever got. And I got it because I wanted to sound like David Gilmour, and I still don't, but it's a good place to start. And you can also find something like the Boss DD8. It's a digital delay. It's pretty classic, and a lot of people like it. It's got a lot of different options. You can go analog delay, digital delay. You can make those delays last for as long as you want, or you can get slapback going. And we've also got the Fender reflecting pool over here, which is a dual delay and reverb. So you might like reverb instead of having something with such clean repetitions. You want more atmosphere. And again, it's just a place to start, but let's check out some tones of these individual pedals and see what you might be hearing. So there you go. There's a little example of what delay and reverb you're kind of playing with there. The cool thing about something like this is you have the option to go for tap tempo. And that can make it really easy on the fly when you're maybe playing live or something. You can set the tempo of the repetitions that you want in the song. Makes it super easy. But then something like the carbon copy analog delay has a modulation on it as well, which adds more, atmospheric, wishy-washy kind of vibe. Just really cool stuff to dive into. Always maybe do your research, see which of those might be perfect for you, or find something that has a little bit of both. The next one we're going to dive into is maybe one of the most elusive kind of ideas for somebody that's just getting into pedals, which is compression. And we're looking at the Saffron Squeeze from Way Huge right now, but there's a ton of great compressors out there. The first one I got was from Fairfield Circuitry, awesome compressor. But up until that point, I really didn't know why I might need one on my board. And I think, it comes down to the specific player. You might need a compressor. It might really help your tone blossom. You might not need one, but really what you're working with here is dynamics, and you're trying to get your levels, maybe brighten up some of the stuff that might get lost in your mix, especially if you're a pretty dynamic player. You're playing soft and loud. It kind of allows your signal to, in effect, be compressed, so everything's coming out at a more relatively, good level, so everybody can hear exactly what you're playing and you're not getting drowned out in the mix. We're going to check out the Saffron Squeeze, and you can hear what compression's all about. So hopefully you could hear kind of between without compression and adding compression what that does to your tone. You can make it really overt and obvious, or you could keep it really subtle just for your own tonal nuances. Something that I really like personally is the tone where you really smash compression. I know that like Tame Impala, Jeremy's Storm, there's a track on their first album that is a great example if you want to hear something where it's like this is compression in its heaviest duty form. And there's also a lot of Beatles records where they're going direct in and just smashing the compressors and getting almost overdrive tones by really pushing the compression. And this is a pedal right here that Fender makes called the Computerless that actually has distortion and compression together. And they really go hand in hand because, an overdrive pedal or distortion or something, it is compressing your tone. But say you want to have separate pedals, you're making your signal chain and you're putting all your pedals together. A lot of people would probably want their compressor first, and just kind of in general dynamics, EQ pedals first, but compressor, so your clean tone is, you know, compressed and getting the tone that you want before adding any other effects. And then your gain bass pedals like distortion and overdrive after that. But you can get something like this that kind of does both really well for you. Next, we're going to start looking at modulation effects, and there's a ton within this category, just like all these other ones. But modulation effects are very colorful, very, you know, a lot of more psychedelic stuff comes in here, experimental things, but there's some classics that we can look at right now, like a phaser. Phaser, flange, chorus, these are going to be in your modulation family. And I would say they're a little bit more specialized effects, not as universal as, say, overdrive or delay or compression. But if you have a specific tone you're going for, you're emulating certain players that you might enjoy. Again, David Gilmour, you want some phase in there. We also got the pinwheel here, which is from Fender. And this is a Leslie speaker emulator. And, you know, you can hear what this sounds like, you can hear what this sounds like, and some chorus right now. So there's just a very quick little example of what a few modulation pedals can do for you. I mean, obviously, people have used these in many different ways. This whole family of pedals is a lot of layering, a lot of exploring a whole new kind of dimension that you can add to your playing. So again, it might not be the first thing you go for, but it can be something really colorful to add to your collection. And a lot of these, you know, you can kind of affect them in real time with the use of an expression pedal, which will look a lot like this. And you're using your foot to basically control a certain knob on the pedal and change your effects as you're playing instead of having to stop, cut, change it, and start over. So an expression pedal can be extremely useful in a lot of different ways, including in modulation pedals. But this right here is a classic. This is a Crybaby wah. And you might see a Vox version or a Morley version. But of all these pedals, this one has the most self-explanatory name. This is a wah-wah pedal. And you're going to get some classic, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan tones, which makes it very attractive as maybe a first pedal or a second pedal to somebody. So we'll hear how this sounds. So there you go. There's some classic wah tones from this Crybaby. You know, Crybaby is kind of maybe the quintessential option when it comes to wah, but there are a lot of different versions. There are a lot of signature versions. There's different brands that make them. And it's important to, you know, find the one that works for you. This is the one that worked for me when I first got it, and it still works for me today, and would definitely recommend it. But it's a very big pedal, and it might take up a little too much space if you're trying to keep it small, keep it concise with your pedal board. So you might be interested in looking at a Mini, which Dunlop makes a mini version of the Crybaby, but they also make a mini volume pedal. You can get a full-size volume pedal, or you can get the Mini. And a volume pedal, you know, it might be valuable for you to have if you don't want to be, you know, trying to contour your volume just with your volume knob. If you want to be able to be a little more expressive with your volume, it's nice to have one of these at your feet. And, you know, if it makes it a lot easier for swells as well, you know. You can get a little more expressive with this without having to be so, you know, light with your hand placement and everything. So volume pedal is very valuable. But if we're talking about something that can be valuable for anybody that's maybe trying to get more into the songwriting side of things, you might find yourself looking for a loop station. This is the Boss RC1, and it kind of starts opening the door to adding layers in a live performance, or just being able to write a chord progression and start, you know, improvising a solo. But it's just, you know, very valuable in a lot of different ways. I personally use the RC30 at every single acoustic gig that I've ever played. It's the 2-pedal version. With this one, you stomp, it starts recording, you stomp again, and it'll loop. But with the 2-pedal version, the stop feature is separate, so you don't have to double tap in the middle of a song, which can get kind of tricky if you're trying to keep rhythm but then double tap real fast. But a loop station is valuable for anybody that wants to build their songs, add layers, and highly recommend it. There you go, you guys. That's the briefest overview of kind of pedal basics that, you know, I think you can find. There's so much information out there about pedals. There are thousands of options that you can find, and I think that it's really just important to find what's right for you, especially if you're just getting started, to build your tone, because this is really, after technique, this is where you can go to find kind of where your style and your sound is going to blossom, by looking at some effects. And, you know, like I said, a lot of people come into the store, they ask us online where to start. And I think, you know, just listen to the music that you enjoy and listen to the sounds that, you know, we're putting forth and a lot of other great content makers are putting forth, because you can find something that's just going to make the sound that you hear in your head come to fruition out of your amplifier. And it's a really exciting thing to dive into. If you're looking for more information on these pedals specifically, check out our website, because we stock all these and a lot more. But also, please go check out the manufacturers themselves. A lot of them are putting out great content, diving into the specifics of the circuitry and what the pedals are made for and what they can do in their widest range. Fender, in particular, they've been putting out great pedals, and it's somewhat a new thing to think about pedals from Fender, and Fender being a big pedal source, but these are great pedals. they're a quality that you might see in higher end boutique brands, but they're pretty affordable for something that's, first of all, they're extremely heavy, they're very durable, you can stomp on these and they're never going to break on you. But they sound great, and they have a ton more effects than just the ones that we've shown here. Also, JHS YouTube channel, amazing content on pedals, not just their pedals, but a wide range of other manufacturers that he just likes, and he'll talk about them. But just start to build, start to find what works for you, and ask us any questions that you might have in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.